Good. Can I just find out who everybody is? So if you're a developer, if you could just put your hand up, developer? Okay. If you're not a developer, if you put your hand up. Right, you're all developers, that's good. What I thought I'd talk about is that I'm in a very interesting stage. I've gone from PC home computers to consoles, and now I'm on the journey of mobile and multi-platform. And I thought it would be interesting for you to get an insight into what is obsessing me at the moment, and what I've learnt from the horrendous mistakes that I have made over the past 2 to 3 years. So let's go through this talk. I've only got 20 minutes or so to go through it. I want to bare my soul. I thought about doing the talk naked, but then I thought, I don't know if that would really, be a good thing for the Amsterdam audience. Well, still it's Amsterdam. Right, let's move on. So first of all, I am absolutely fascinated with this term gamers. And we've got lots of sort of definitions and lots of thoughts, but I've had to think to myself, what is a gamer? How do we define a gamer? And I think the best definition that I've come up with is someone that spends more than X on gaming a year. And let's just say X is $1,000. That's a reasonable thing. Whether they buy a new console, or whether they spend on free-to-play, or whether they spend it on League of Legends, let's define it as that, and let's break that down. It's a fascinating thing. Firstly, the amount of money spent on mobile gaming is kind of changing a little bit. It's no longer going as sharply up as it was. The amount of gamers, that's people that spend money on PC gaming, seems to be have increased dramatically over the last decade, especially if you include Asia. The net of all this for me as a designer is that there are millions, no, tens of millions, no, hundreds of millions of gamers out there. And my job, absolutely, is to give them experiences that they've never seen before. That's my job. That's how I define myself. Now, how do you go about doing that? Well, firstly, understanding your audience a little bit, and we're going to go through that. So, over the last 2 years, as I said, I went from console to mobile, and what I found was that the experience of an old console designer moving to mobile has been an incredible one. Everybody says this one line, and it's a fascinating line, and that line is, the day of release is just another day of development, and nothing could be more true. And it's taken me 2 games on mobile, Curiosity and Goddess, to really appreciate what that means. What it really means is that you have to be more fascinating, more innovational, more inspirational with the title that you make after it's released than when it's initially released. And what that means, essentially, to the new piece of IP that I'm working on, you've got to plan that right at the very start. It's no good, and this is with the approach that I took, it is absolutely no good to release the title and just see how it goes. What we did with Goddess, and it was almost a fatal mistake, is we'd release it, we'd have a brainstorming session, what should we do next? And then we would release a patch. And we've changed the game significantly as it's gone on. But the problem with that is it means the poor coders have to re-engineer the central core of the game all the time. So that is the biggest difference. The other difference is that the energy that your team has has to be more after release, whereas consoles, you use all your energy up to the day of release. So as I said, we have, because of my obsession with trying to understand this new audience that's out there, we have gone through these bizarre steps. We've released this thing called Curiosity. Did anyone see Curiosity? Did anyone tap on it? Yes, so quite a few people tapped on it. We released, we did a Kickstarter. That is, there's a whole talk on Kickstarter, and my feeling of Kickstarter is that it's a wonderful place for ideas for games to evolve in, rather than ideas go from nothing to something. We released Goddess on early access, way too early, if I'm honest with you. What we should have done is waited until we have finished every little piece before releasing it into early access, and then we released Goddess on iOS, and in fact, Thursday, it's coming out in Asia. And Goddess has been fantastically successful. It's, and everybody seems to quote these numbers these days. It's been #1 in 54 countries. It's had 280,000 five-star likes. It's had, it's my most successful game that I've ever worked on. More people have played Goddess than any other game that I've ever done, which is an incredible feeling. There seem to be as many people who have question marks about it. We've had 90,000 concurrent users. That means 90,000 people sculpting sort of on the server at one particular time. And the curve of its success is very much like the curves that you see in many mobile games. Lots of people at the start, when you get featured, and trailing off. But even though it was successful, there was a huge amount of lessons to be learnt. And the first lesson is, and I guess this is a lesson for any developer out there, is on PC, it was a paid app, and on mobile, it was a free-to-play app. I don't think I'd ever do that again, because that meant there was the PC audience really found it challenging to think that they had a different game from the mobile audience, and a lot of people got very, very upset, and I blame myself for that. But also, the game itself was just so complicated. There was so many moving systems, about 10,000 numbers to balance. And this would drive you absolutely insane. So if you are going to be doing, this is one of my lessons learned, if I was going to do a free-to-play game again, then I would definitely focus on a few very meaningful systems. And the trouble is with an open world game like Goddess, where every pixel of the land can change, and the flow of people's progress can be radically different from one person to another person, makes it insanely challenging to balance, especially to balance around the monetization nature. But we did experiment with quite a few things. There's a lot of talk about events. These time-limited gameplay that if a player gets to a certain level, then they get a reward, and if they do that within 2 days, they get the reward. If they don't, they never get the reward. They'll never get that content. The problem with that is, whilst it's quite nice for people, I think there's a lot of people sort of jumping on that bandwagon. The problem is, for something like this, and this would be a problem in a role-playing game or a problem in an RTS, or is it distracts the player from the core gameplay. And that's a real lesson that I learned, is if you distract the player from what the core of the game is, they kind of lose their way. So in Goddess, people would plan their worlds and they would sculpt their worlds out, and then there was this event going on. You could see through the numbers. They'd join the event and then forget what they were doing in the main world. So all of this is great lessons to be learnt. Oh, look, we've got a video of the gameplay. No, I won't play this. I've only got 20 minutes. So, here we are now with Goddess fully released, and we've got a fantastic, amazing team of people, incredibly passionate people. Our choice now is simple. We split the company, most of us on the new IP, but a totally dedicated, about a quarter of the company still remaining on Goddess, because it's there are DAUs across all the formats of hundreds of thousands a day, and it's making tens, if not hundreds of thousands if it's a good day, of revenue. So we have to keep that team there, and we have a new team of a team working on the new IP. And this is a problem, by the way, for any studio, anybody that's out there that's a developer. This is another problem, is that we hired those people to be innovational and to be daring about their approach to problems, and then asking them to become essentially service people that just put out a content pack after content pack, is asking a lot, is asking them to change their personalities. So for us, we define ourselves by the innovational content that we're working on. So with this new team and new IP, with the mistakes that I made with Goddess, what are we doing? Well, we're working on a new piece of IP, and it has to be, my job, if I define myself at all, is to do something completely unexpected. And so I'm going to talk to you now about the obsessions and why these obsessions for me are important. My aspiration is this. As a designer, my aspiration is to make a game that, quite simply, everybody on the planet plays. That's what I want. It's not much to ask, really. DAUs of 7 billion. Or maybe, I'll discount it a little bit. We won't include the Welsh or something, so, 6.9 billion. That's what I get obsessed about. And I think, while that sounds ridiculous, I think when you're sitting down and creating a new IP, that's what you have to think about. You have to not think about, I think it's the worst thing that you can do to say, oh, I'd love to be in the top 10. Oh, wouldn't it be great to knock Clash of Clans off their #1 spot? That will destroy you as a designer in the first instance, because you're limiting your ambition. My obsession and ambition is to make something so delightful, so inspirational, so different from anything else that's been seen before, that I don't limit my creativity. And the first ingredient I'm going to put into this pot is this word commune. Now, Clash of Clans has been an enormous, incredible success. I'm an enormous fan of it. I've personally spent money on it. And it took me a long time as a consumer and as a designer to really understand what was going on. And my sort of flash of inspiration it's nothing about the mechanics. There's lots of apps where you build stuff. What it really is, the secret is, and it's so obvious, is in the title, Clash of Clans. And what they did brilliantly is persuaded me gently that I should join a clan. And this idea of clans has got a hell of a lot of mileage to it. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to find a new, totally new way, completely new way of bringing people together and forming them into, I'm not going to say a clan because I think that's limited, into a group or commune, and give them a goal which is so meaningful, so natural and meaningful, they cannot resist to continue playing. Now, how are we going to do that? Well, it's not going to, one thing's for sure, you can't have a lobby. The people, my belief is to go back and look at things like World of Warcraft. Who played World of Warcraft? Who met a person on the route in the World of Warcraft? That's what happened to me. I met someone while I was playing World of Warcraft, and it was very clumsy. It was quite clumsy, but we traveled together for a while. I think that's a fantastic moment of inspiration. Imagine we could have a game where you discover your best friend. Could that be possible? Would that be insane? I don't think it is. So what we are doing is thinking of a completely new way of persuading people gently to come together in groups. Now, some of those people in that group may be friends. Some of those people may be people that you've never met from different cultures, from different lands, speaking different languages. I'll give you a clue. One of the things we're not going to do is allow people to chat. Because for me, chatting, typing, and texting in a group limits what the emotional impact of that. You know, there's if you go on live role-playing, has anyone done live role-playing? No, you look too sensible to do live role-playing. If you've done live role-playing, you go along to this thing, you dress up as a wizard, or you dress up as a, or as an elf or whatever, and you've got to stay in character. You have to stay in character. If you don't get stayed in character, you get thrown out. And that's the problem with chat, is it's fine if everyone stays in character, but it's very destructive if everyone starts using chat. So to do the commune side, we're having to reinvent the way people chat. And in fact, we're making communication part of the leveling up strategy. Also, another thing, I just say this, is that when you, if you're in a group of people and you have a meaningful destiny for that group, then you're much more likely to spend money. Because you're not spending it on yourself, you're spending it on the group. So there's all great goodness there. The next thing that I am absolutely fascinated with is this concept of exploring. Imagine a world. If all I have to do to excite someone about a game is you get to explore this beautiful world. Done. Job done. Especially on these devices. So can we give a world so beautiful, so fascinating for people to explore in? But the problem is, on mobile, is a disastrous one. And that problem is simple and tedious. It's about navigation. It's taken us 2 decades, really, if I'm honest, to get navigation right on consoles, to get the thumbstick just right. I did a game called For the Fable series, and we spent ages getting the balance and the running of the hero right. We have to go back, for me, we had to go back to the drawing board to give people this feeling that they were exploring an entire world, but to understand how to do that, they had to be able to navigate and move within 2 seconds. In other words, I could give you a device, a PC or mobile, I could give you this, and within 2 seconds, you would have to be navigating through the world. I love the thought. If you have a beautiful, incredible open world, I love the thought, what's around the next corner, what's over the next hill. And if you're talking about retention, thinking about people coming together as a group, and that thought about what's around the next corner is a fascinating one. The next thing, gosh, I'm running out of time. The next thing is about interaction. Now, it's tempting to think that we've already squeezed all the goodness out of touch. No, not in the slightest. For me, we're still making the same mistakes over and over and over again. Now, I think a lot of people have got rid of the thumbstick simulator on mobile. Great. But we need to now look at some of the other millstones that are hanging around our necks. I'll give you an example, a simple example, and that is about inventories. You know those things. If you're playing a role-playing game or you're pretty much playing, it's a sort of generalized system. You have some sort of pack, and you put stuff in the pack, and when it fills up, that's it. That needs complete reinvention because that was designed for a style of game and a method of input which is now decades old. So don't think that if you're working on a touch-based game that you can just do swipe forward, swipe back, hold and press. No, you need to think innovationally about the interaction. For me, the word I love is tactile. Is tactile. I must be able to feel that what I'm doing. It must be a physical action. It must make sense. It must not be abstract. And when I show you finally the game, I hope you'll see what you mean. So that is what I wrote up on the wall, tactile and natural. Whatever we do, there must be an emotional connection. If you are, the sort of emotional connection I'm talking about is the emotional connection you get when you stroke a dog. It elicits a feeling inside you. And I played around earlier on with that sort of connection, that sort of interaction in a game I did called Black and White. And in Black and White, you could spank your monkey. And you could hit it, and you could tell it off by hitting it. Now, that interaction is what I mean by natural and meaningful. When people saw people hitting this monkey, they got an instant emotional reaction. And this device especially is great for that, and I still don't see enough of that on there. The next thing that's obsessing me is this thought of making stuff. I love making stuff. But if I'm going to make something, it's got to be totally and utterly unique to me. I think there's an enormous opportunity here that we make people allow them to feel creative. Allow them to feel like that what they're doing is unique to them. Now, so what we've got so far, let's list this through it. We have got the ability to come together as a group, exploring a vast, beautiful, incredible land, interacting in the world in a very, very unique way, and making stuff. I'm giving you some of the things that I don't feel I've seen many times before. And then lastly is beauty. And this is a dangerous thing for us to get involved with. But because of everything I've said so far, really, I think our focus has to be on the higher-end devices. We have to look at those low-end devices and say, you know what? Yeah, they're just not doing it for the ambition that we've got. We've got to be forward thinking. And that frees us up to allow us to use this hardware in very exciting ways. And you can do things on this device, especially the iPhone 6, but the 5S as well, a lot of the Samsung devices, the higher-end Samsung, you can do just jaw-droppingly amazing things. And so, for so long, I found myself limited by the need to support every single format under the sun. And then this realization simply came, you know, what are the devices that Apple are selling, and what is the likelihood that they're going to be continuing to sell the 4S for another 5 years? Probably zero. So making it emotionally meaningful, making it visually unique, making it, everyone talks about, you know, they talk about discovery. There's a simple solution to discovery. Forget about user acquisition. The discovery is this, and it was here on the early stage of this phone, is people look at, when the people play your app, they feel the need to show other people. That's discovery. That's all you have to do. You don't have to do anything else. You just have to do that. Make it so charming, so beautiful, so delightful, that discovery, you never have to spend a single penny on discovery. In fact, we never spent any money on user acquisition for Goddess. So those are the things that are obsessing me. Our steps at the moment are, we're choosing our middleware. I think you have to, these days, use middleware if you're going to make a big title. So we're choosing the middleware. We've been looking at Unreal. We've been looking at Unity. I love Unity, by the way. We've been looking at some third-party software, so we're still choosing that. We're developing a prototype. We're loving the mistakes. I think if you're making something innovational, love your mistakes. If you don't make a mistake, you're definitely doing something wrong. So love the mistakes, be honest with yourself, try and get outside views when they're ready to get. Evolve the design, don't just write the design down, evolve it, to use words like tactile and feeling. I have now run out of time. We are very, very desperate for another designer, a passionate, insane, creative designer. The less industry experience, the better, in my opinion, because we don't want someone with industry experience. We want someone who just doesn't know the rules, because we want to break the rules. And we want an amazing and driven coder. Again, prefer someone with less experience rather than someone with more experience. We found that the people with less experience have that drive and energy and craziness. And that's what you need, is crazy, out-of-the-box thinking. If you know anybody, or if you are the person yourself, please email me directly at pmolyneux22cans. Have we got time for questions? Yes or no?
We have time for one question if it's 2 minutes or less.
Or no?
Okay.
No question.
We have one question.
We have one question.
Whose hand was first? Excuse me, coming through.
Here we go.
So you said social aspect is really important and the community aspect, but do you think the competition is important? Because you didn't mention it.
I think group to group, if you form people together in a group, then those groups competing with other groups is absolutely essential, yeah. And competition within the group as well is who is the best within the group. As long as that's done in a delightful way, I think that works well. Great. Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, round of applause for Peter. Thank you.